Hey, well, welcome back to the show. I've been starting these with like talking about your why for competing in HYROX or anything else that you do. What's the why or the motivator behind it for you?
Well, thanks for having me. And I'm curious to go back and hear what I had said the first time. Can you hear that in the background? Sorry.
I heard a a scream or something.
So my daughter is barking like a dog because she
Okay.
thinks she's one of the dogs. And Anthony just went up the stairs and did a big dog growl at her.
Just a house full of dogs
So I
growling.
guess he's just like playing into it. But yeah, I'm curious what I had originally said because I'm sure I was probably just trying to come up with it, on the spot, and I think it's, like, ever changing, but, like, the base, like, root of it is, like, I enjoy it, like, it's fun. When I started, there was not I mean, like, they give prize money, like, very little out, like, to the normal events, but, like, it wasn't the spectacle that you see it as today, and, like, you there were no live streams, like, you weren't doing it to, like, be on a live stream, you weren't doing it to get into an Elite 15, we weren't doing it for money by any means, because like, we were spending thousands of dollars just to go travel to do them, like, across the country, so, I mean, at the end of the day, like, where I started was because, like, it was fun, I enjoyed it, it was something that I wanted to chase and do, and it was pushing myself, and I've always been into, like I came from a CrossFit background, so I've always been into CrossFit and I just like to compete, and there's not as many CrossFit competitions out there. There's some, like, local ones, and I would do those as well, but, like, this just fits so much better because even when I would do a CrossFit competition, like, the things I'd be good at were the ones that had running in it, and and then I would get smashed in any sort of, like, strength, piece to it, so, I mean, at the end of the day, I enjoy it, and then, like, we see the CrossFit Games has just started today, so I don't know when the episode is gonna come out, but it started today, and this is when I get FOMO in terms of, "Man, I miss that," because as much as I love HYROX, I love that when you do a CrossFit competition, there's so many different events. So, like, maybe you might be able to, like, do really well in one event, but you're not gonna do super well in another, and I think that lends to, like, maybe a little bit more ease in terms of, like, both camaraderie and, some of that trash talking that might come a little bit easier because, like, it's not just one event that you're like, "Ooh, I'm gonna do really well at this." You'd be like, "Ooh, I'm not gonna do well at this, but I'm gonna get you on the next one." So, I don't know, I get a lot of FOMO every time the games comes around.
Yeah, yeah. I think I don't think I always opened with that question, but I think I remember you saying before that it was very much as well as about like seeing what you're capable of and seeing what your body can eventually be capable of over time, um, and like continue to push the limits of what you're doing. Like, is that still a major factor for you as well? Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be because, like, we're we're putting our bodies through a lot, like, in training, and it's only, like, these tiny little marginal gains that at this point we're getting, where in the beginning, like, there were these big jumps because I had so much to improve in different areas, but now, like, I can put in 3 times as much time, but the amount that I'm gonna see return from that is not nearly what I was seeing a return in the beginning. So, I'm still just, like, trying to figure out how much time I can take off, especially as the race develops because the race has changed, in small ways since I had started, and some of them have made the race easier, some of them have made the race more difficult, and it just that also kind of affects, like, your time in terms of chasing a better time. So one of the things that made it a lot easier is when they went from 25-meter sled lengths to the 12 and a half. I think one of my first sled pulls was, like, almost an 8-minute sled. So those 25-meter lengths were brutal.
Yeah. Does that? I mean, I was going to ask you about this a little bit later, but like the doubles, and then also like you've done an open race this year at DC where you got the world record. Is that like? I guess that slightly changes the event for you as well. So does that keep it interesting for you? Is that one of the reasons that you're doing it?
Yeah, so the open was, like, a significantly higher output, um, so I had to the weights are lighter, but I had to work harder for a longer period of time because I could sustain a higher output, where with the pro weights, it's harder to push, but my output isn't quite as high, so, like, I have to kinda temper my runs surrounding it, and then the amount of time that takes me to push, my heart rate drops a ton, where when I did the open, it was high output the whole time. It was a different stimulus, and yeah, it keeps it entertaining. It was fun. To be quite frank, I enjoyed it more. I liked I liked pushing really hard the whole time versus kind of playing around with where I need to back off to make sure I don't overcook in certain places.
I think for people not aware that it was 55:38 was the time that you set. It was just the open world record. Uh, and that was obviously non-grid as well, like one of your first non-grid races in quite a
In a
while.
long
Like, do
cruise.
you think you're capable of faster if you go again?
Uh, yes, I think, like, even just at least at that time, obviously, like, our fitness levels kind of ebb and flow throughout the year, maybe not at this point in time, but if I were to have redone that race, like, 2 weeks later after that, yes, I think knowing what it felt like, I could have gone faster. Right now, I just don't think I'm in that type of fitness
Mhm.
where, like, I can't say, "Oh, if I were to race the open tomorrow, I'd go faster," because I don't believe that's true. I think, like, once I get myself back into that type of fitness, then yes, I do think I'm capable of faster than that.
Okay. I I guess that leads to I was going to ask you about off season because we're in the off season now. So what is uh well are you doing other events away from HYROX? Like I know you tend to like to dip your feet into other things. Are you doing other things?
Yeah, so I really wanted to try and get a super beast and a sprint done for Spartan because they have their trifecta world championships in the US for the first time this year. I haven't been able to pull that off. So, I mean, if I'm gonna pull it off, I think I have like 3 weeks. I don't foresee that happening this year. Hopefully someday. Uh, and then I've been searching trail races as well. Right now I'm in Montana and there doesn't seem to be a ton. So I think when I go back to Vegas, there's a couple like race to the top events. Um, and there's one on, I believe, September 1st that I'm like 95% sure I'm gonna do. So you like start at the bottom of a mountain. I think it starts at like 6,000 feet, and then you race 7 miles up. And I think it's like 4,000 feet of gain.
Okay.
So
Oh,
I'm looking to do that one. It'll be a Sunday.
okay. Okay. Nice. And do you feel like that is like these types of things are just because you want to do them, because you enjoy them, because they're just fun, or like do you think it's good to do for your HYROX performance ultimately? Do you think it like leads well into that, or not necessarily?
Um, I think for like in terms of like from a mentality standpoint, it's good for me to do other things because I really, really enjoy doing things outside. I love racing outside. I love doing like the OCR events. I am I r- like very much have my eyes set on like I want to be an ultra endurance athlete. I want to be a trail athlete. It's just like the skill sets and the things that I've developed over a lifetime have allowed me to do really well in this hybrid fitness, and not that I don't enjoy it, and I'm gonna keep doing it, like, while I can and while I can be competitive with it, but, like, my heart, like, lies in the mountains.
Okay.
So, um, that is what I want to do, I'm just not as good at it. So, right now, I'm just trying to, like, kind of lay the stones and lay some framework so that when I do eventually, like, try and transition more into that, I'm not starting from scratch because, like, trying to build fitness for an ultra event takes years. So, I don't wanna start when I'm ready to start. I wanna start kind of, like, laying that foundation now so that when I do actually like go head first into it, I'm at least somewhat prepared, or at least my muscles and my legs and time on beat and stuff like that. I'm somewhat prepared. I'm sure I will not be prepared in any way in terms of gut training or like food tolerance or like how much hydration. I think that's going to be a whole separate learning curve. But it, so in the end, like no, not necessarily these other endeavors are not necessarily the best for high rocks training. And I would say because there's also a lot of risk of injury. What I will say is I think there is a lot you can gain in terms of like preparing for a high rocks race if you do a stimulus before that. So for me, this race to the top, sure, it's not a high rocks race. It's not even a hybrid fitness race. And there is going to be a risk of injury because there's trail, but it's a month out from the first major. And I do think that that stimulus will translate into me doing better in Hamburg. So yes and no, really long way to say yes and no.
That's great. Do you have a time frame in mind for that, like headfirst transition to ultra, like as your primary focus?
Um, so I wanna stay with, like, HYROX and any sort of, hybrid fitness events that come out for as long as I can be competitive in it, and by competitive, I mean, um, like, in the elite field, like, I don't have to be in podium contention, just for, like, as long as I can be in the elite field, I wanna keep doing it. I think, like, over time, as likely, like, my average placing drops, that's when I'll probably, like, still stay with it, but, like, I'll put more focus into something else.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I wanna stay with it for, like, as long as I can stay in that elite field, and whether that's another year or it's another 10 years, I think that's to be seen.
Yeah. It seems to be a sport that does lend itself to, it's not just a young person's sport, is it necessarily? Like we've seen, like Amy Bevilacqua and certainly people older than you in that elite field. So it's not something that's immediately on the horizon,
Oh,
I
and
wouldn't say.
she's, like, not doing just well for her age, like, she's just
Yeah,
smashing in general.
yeah, yeah, amazing. I want to talk about, let's talk about HYROX a little bit more. So like in the season just gone. So we're not too far after Chicago. Can we just reflect on on the races that you had in Chicago, like starting with the singles race, where you finished third? How in hindsight, looking back at Chicago and those races, how are you feeling about them? How do you feel it went for you?
I mean, I was really glad that I was able to race in all like, all 3 of the events that I wanted to, but it was I mean, it was a hard weekend, like, I felt like almost everything I was a part of, like, people were upset in some way or another, and that was just, like, challenging mentally for me, like, I don't like to be the reason that people are getting angry or upset, and I seem to be involved in, like, a lot of that, um to my knowledge, unintentionally. I mean, other people might argue otherwise in some ways, but yeah.
In what way? In what way is this in the relay and the disqualification from the relay? Is that what you mean?
Well,
Or?
that was the first one, so we got disqualified for, the relay, which, like, I fully understand why, like, I mean, if they let that go, who like, what's gonna come in the future, because then people are like, "Okay, so that's fair game," and we don't know how far it could actually escalate, so I understand why they're just, like, trying to stamp it out. Um, but there was a lot of chatter on that too, and then there were people mad at me for being the captain and picking certain people on the team. I was like, "Well, I mean, I thought I picked, like, the best competitors for the team." Like, how many people can do what Hunter can do in terms of, like, combining ergs and a run? Like, I don't
No,
know. Anybody can.
no.
Like, honestly, I mean, I think Tim was pretty close, but Tim's not American, I don't get to pick Tim. So, I have to
Yeah.
pick somebody from my country.
No, I don't think I can't believe anyone would argue with the selection that you made. And ultimately, like in some ways, you did win the race. It was ultimately the disqualification, though, because of the incident. But I don't think the team selection was questioned really. But the doubles you won as well. Uh, how did that race go for you? I mean, presumably it went well because you won, but ultimately because of a time penalty given to Lucy and Sinead.
Right, which is, like that was also really hard in terms of because, like, they were announced as winners and then it was taken away, so now, like, you've given them this, like, elation and they get to celebrate just to, like, kinda take it away within minutes, so, that was hard, and the race itself was hard, like, I definitely did not feel great while I was, while I was racing, and we Lauren and I had a set plan going into the race, and, it for sure changed by the sled push. Like, it was out the window by the sled push, and no, I was definitely struggling a lot more than I had hoped, and by the time we got to the rower, that's when I remember running into the rower, and I wanted to gauge I was supposed to start the rower, and so we were running, and I wanted to gauge. I was like, "So how are you feeling?" Because I was kinda hoping she was feeling better than me, and she would start the row, and I think I might be misquoting this, but I think she turned around, she's like, "Oh, I'm kinda just hanging on." I'm like,
Me too.
yeah, okay. So I did start, but, I didn't row as many meters as I agreed to row before we started. I
Okay.
was like, "Okay, we gotta switch." Like, I'm not doing well right now. So, I did still get on the rower first, after her response during that run, but I did not stay on as long as I promised to stay.
Okay. Do you feel like that was a result of just a busy weekend, like singles race, the relay, and then the doubles was the last race of the weekend? Like, was it was it because of that primarily, do you think, or?
I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. I wouldn't say that, like, my health was great that whole weekend, um, but I also being the 3rd elite race of the weekend did not help in it.
Yeah, yeah. Just while we're talking about doubles, did you see that they're implementing a penalty box after the wall balls for any time based penalties? Like, interested in your opinion on that? How do you think that's going to work? Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a step in the right direction. I think like one of the things I appreciate in terms of what this company does is they do take feedback, they try something, and if it works, like they'll continue with it. But they also just seem to like not really be stuck in their ways because we see things change all the time throughout the season. So like they're willing to make changes, which I appreciate. So I think it's worth trying and see like how it unfolds like in real time and with real penalties because I'm sure we'll see more penalties. Um and then just kind of go from there. Like if it does work, great. If it needs some more tweaking, I'm sure they'd be open to continue to tweak it. So um I did read some of the comments underneath where they announced it. Somebody asked, like, "Is it gonna be a penalty box like hockey, so the fans can heckle them while just being, like, stuck on, like, people heckling?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice. Another race, another race in the season, I obviously want to talk about is the Glasgow race, where you broke the pro world record in a time of 56:23. You smashed the world record really in a time of 56:23, and it was one of the better races really that we'd seen because you had a great battle with Joanna Wetrick that day. Like, did you like? Did you just feel particularly good that day? Was it a result of like having that race with Joanna that pushed you on to get that sort of time?
So, like, one, that was one of, like, the closest and longest battles I've ever had in a race, which was, yes, very exciting. It keeps you motivated the whole time. It keeps you pushing. I think, like, that was a huge part of it, but I think, honestly and I wish we had measured it, and I would love to be able to get all venues to this, it was cold in there. Like, the venue was cold, which, like, if you're just standing around is uncomfortable, but, like, when you're racing, like, what that does in terms of, like, not just your perceived effort, but like how much effort you actually have to put in is huge. So like being able to stay cooler, I think had a huge impact in like how much we could output throughout the whole race. And um, like when I finish a race, I'm normally like my clothes are completely saturated because like I'm drenched in sweat. But after Glasgow, like sure I was sweaty, like my skin was glistening, but my clothes were not like soaking wet like they normally are. And I think that had a huge impact. And of course, like the head to head battle then just, like, kinda pushed it forwards, and the fact that that battle was, like, the entire race long, which I've never had before, um, continued to push us even further. So I think there were, like, a lot of things that really lined up very
Yeah.
well in that race for us.
I don't know if you saw. Funny enough, I had that exact conversation really with Hugo Hugemark, um, where we talked about like I think temperature is the underappreciated factor in some of these times, and we talk about like that Glasgow course. I think was like 4 laps actually for you guys, and some people are like, oh, it's a 1 lap course, it's going to be quicker than 4 laps, but I'm not sure the laps plays as much of a part in someone's time as the temperature in the
Not
venue.
only were there, like, multiple laps, but they weren't smooth laps. Like, there were a lot of 90-degree turns that we were doing through it
Mm-hmm.
where, like, you couldn't have, like, a smooth stride throughout the whole thing, and there were, like, things that, like, popped up in the middle of the floor that you, like, almost had to, like, do a hurdle over that was, like, a foot high.
Right.
There I think, like, one of the timing things, like, it was pretty high. I don't think I'm exaggerating by saying it was, like, close to a foot high.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm exaggerating. I don't know. Measure.
Um, uh, um, you like we've touched on a few of the races, but you do race quite a lot, and you tend to go to all the majors. Like you're doing doubles, and I know like some people might talk about those too many races, and you need to try and peak for the world championships and things like that. But I'm interested to know like how you think about your season racing. Like, do you think it's beneficial to you to race often, or is it just something that you do because you enjoy? Like, how do you think about racing and racing a lot?
So, I actually don't think it's the racing itself that affects me too much, it's the travel to the races. Um, and because we're traveling so far and, like, the losing of the sleep and, just being on a plane that long, that's what really affects me the most is the travel, and the time changes and then adjusting while you're there and then getting back and having to readjust again. That's what gets me and, like, kinda what will put me back. The racing itself, I actually think is super helpful. Like, getting a race stimulus, for me, there's nothing like it. Like, it, like, primes me to do better in the next one. So, for example, like, going into Hamburg, like, I mean, I'm gonna try and do, like, a trail race, which hopefully will help and stimulate and give me something, but there's nothing like doing an actual race before it. So, like, I wouldn't expect Hamburg to be like a spectacular performance for me because I don't have something that's like primed me to be ready for it versus if we did have another race 4 weeks from that, that's the one I would expect to do really well in because now I've had this stimulus, my body had a chance to adapt to it, and now it's ready to go. So I think the racing is helpful. Like if you're racing 30 races a year, then no, that's too much. But like 4 majors, potentially 5 this year with the world championship. I don't think that's too much racing. I think for me, it only helps, the stimulus helps. It's the traveling to and from them. So, like, this will never happen, but ideally, if all of my races were on the West Coast of America, like, I feel I feel like I could drop some serious time, by just, like, getting that stimulus and not having to recover from all the travel. It's the tapering, the travel, the coming back, and, like, all the time adjustments that's what usually sets me back, but the stimulus is super helpful.
If you let's say they all 4 or 5 races were on the west coast, would you and so the travel element wasn't a factor, but would you be tapering for it and then like coming out after the event, like reduced training, or would you like train through a lot of them? And like, also, how do you think about that? Like, if you are tapering and then like reduce training afterwards, is it kind of like, well, there's 2 weeks lost of good training, or you think the race experiences makes that worthwhile?
Um, to answer the question fully honest, no, I probably wouldn't taper for the majority of them. I might play around with like different levels of light tapers, like, and but I probably would never do a heavy taper with the exception of like leading into a world championship. I just wouldn't do that for a normal race. But like maybe within those 4 to 5 races, I'd play around with like different stimuluses and different things within the taper for each one. But like, I mean, obviously, DC wasn't a major, but for example, for that one, like I didn't, I did not change my training at all. I did a full week of training going into DC, and like, granted, it was open weights, but it's still the fastest time I've ever run a HYROX.
Mm,
So, um, I don't wanna validate not tapering, but, like, I also, like, would like to play around with in different levels of taper.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You seem to um we can talk about like your training a little bit, but and the volume, but I think a relatively high volume. But you seem to remain relatively injury free, as far as I can see. Obviously, maybe you just don't talk about them all the time. But have you got what's a like? If that's true, do you? What's the secret to that?
So 2 parts to that question. One, it's not true. Like, yes, I've had injuries, I just don't publicly talk about them.
Okay.
Um, I will usually, like, work through it on my own and I continue training through anything, just kind of adjusting as needed. Um, I don't know, I'm just like, unless it was, like, a major injury, for example, like, Kate obviously right now has a major injury, like, there's no way she could not talk about it, like, she had to have surgery. Um, so, like, in that case, like, if I had had surgery, like, sure, I would be public about it, but, like, things that aren't to that level, I usually don't not because 'cause I'm not trying to make excuses, I guess. But yeah, no, I mean, small injury things happen. I think it's, like, impossible to avoid it no matter what. Like, yes, I'm training a ton, but, like, even if I wasn't training a ton, it's pretty hard to avoid soft tissue, ligament injuries, I think, throughout it. Um, but that doesn't mean that I don't try and prevent it. And I spend a minimum of an hour doing PT work every single day. So, like, stuff that is very unexciting, feels like you're not actually doing anything. It's, it doesn't feel like you're building muscle or getting faster or but I do think it helps keep me healthier than what I would be if I were not doing them. And that's just like a minimum of like an hour a day, and it's time consuming, where I feel like I'd rather be out getting an hour doing a run. Like I'd rather be doing an hour of lifting or a metcon or just something that makes me feel like it's more worthwhile. But I know that it is super important, and, like, one of the injuries that I've had in the past, this one was probably, like, 2 years ago, I was having some really bad knee problems, and I started doing, some knee exercises, and it took a little bit of time, but, like, it completely went away, and I didn't have to do anything but PT exercises to make that happen, um, and I just never stopped doing them. I was like, "This is magic. I'm never gonna stop." So, that's the problem with, like, these things, like, and when little injuries pop up, that's why, like, my routine has gotten to be the length that it is because, like, every time something pops up, like, I'm researching and doing new PT exercises, and then I'm afraid of getting that injury again, so I just keep doing it.
Got a lifetime of exercises
And
in
they
there.
just keep adding on to, like, the other things that I have to do throughout the day.
Okay, but aside from that, well, in terms of your training, we sort of touched on. I think you are relatively high volume. Can you talk about like how much running volume you're doing, and then also what your total training volume is in terms of hours and things?
Yeah, so I can't say exactly what my um total hour time is because I don't know. I will say it's definitely over 20. Um the running is the one that I am like cautious to actually put a number on. I think we had talked like before the chat in terms of like things that I'm like would want to avoid talking about, but I don't want to avoid talking about it. I just think it's important. Um well, one, like I'm trying to build for like a later career in a different sport.
Hmm.
So like the amount that I'm running right now, I actually don't think is beneficial specifically to HYROX because it one creates more fatigue, causes a higher risk of injury. And it's just like not necessary for the sport that we're in. But it's not the sport that like it's not the only sport that I want to be in. So that's the one that I'm cautious to put a number out there for because I don't think it's necessary for people to replicate that, and I think that there's a high risk of injury if someone were to try. I would say right now it's even higher than normal because, we are in Montana, and I am an hour away from an actual gym.
All right.
So, like, we do have things here, like, there's dumbbells and barbell, and we brought a bunch of stuff, like, we brought kettlebells and D-balls, so, like, there's weights, but, and I because I knew we were gonna be here for a long time, I ordered a SkiErg. I feel like that's, like, a whole 'nother topic to go on, like, if I were gonna make one big purchase, everybody talks about, like, if you could have something for HYROX, like, what would it be? And I ended up in that situation, like, where, like, I didn't wanna make a ton of big purchases, like, what's gonna give me the best bang for my buck to help me stay hopefully somewhat HYROX sharp, and I chose a SkiErg.
Okay.
Um, I ordered a SkiErg and it was here within, like, 3 days of us arriving, and we planned on being here for about 6 weeks.
So,
And,
let me ask. So, why that over a row or a Concept 2 bike, for example?
um, well, one, like, there's bikes here, so, like, sure,
Okay.
I can't use it in terms of training, but, like, if I wanna cycle, like, I can go outdoors and I can bike around the lake, or something like that. So, like I have access to bikes. It's obviously not the same as like an air bike. And then in terms of the rower, I think there's a lot you can do with the rower, but for a HYROX race, because of the placement of the SkiErg, and currently the way the race is ran, I think it's much more important to be proficient on a SkiErg than it is to be on a rower. It's more upper body versus it is a whole body exercise, but there's more upper body in skier than there is in rowing, where there's, like, a lot of leg dominance in rowing, and I'm already doing a ton of leg work.
Hmm.
Like, I don't necessarily sure, if I could have a rower in addition to the skier, I would, but I only wanted to buy one. So, I went with the skier because it is working a little bit more upper body. It's just, like, different muscle groups, hopefully not overusing something. There's a little bit more core involved, and just, like, in terms of being prepared for a high rocks, like, I wanna stay sharp for the ski because if I can stay in contact with everybody in the beginning of the race, I can then continue to choose to make a move or not as the race unfolds, versus if I fall behind on the ski, now I'm responding to moves, and I wanna be a move maker. Like, I don't wanna have to be the one, like, always responding to moves. I wanna be able to, like, choose to make a move, and if I let my ability on the skier go, now I won't have the ability to, like, be the one making a move. I'm always responding.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. All right. That's great. In your training, like, and like, I know you're coaching a lot of athletes, including the elites at like the hybrid engine. It's quite it's quite varied training. It's not necessarily HYROX specific training that you're doing. Um, do you feel like that's important, like for HYROX performance, or is it just because you like doing a variety of events that you do it like that? Can you, yeah, how do you think about that sort of side of things?
Um, for sure I enjoy it, but I do think it's important. Like, even if I didn't enjoy it, I would make myself do it because I think it's important. I think, HYROX is a very well-rounded event, but it still doesn't encompass everything that makes you a well-rounded athlete. And to get better at some of the HYROX movements, I don't think we should be just pounding those HYROX movements. I do think that you need to do other things that will then translate and make you better at certain high rocks movements. For example, like a burpee broad jump. Like, sure, you can do burpees all day long, but that's not always going to be making you better at the burpee broad jump. There's so much power associated with that movement that things like power cleans, dumbbell snatches, box jumps, things that are power based will help make you better for that movement, even though like none of those things involved a burpee. Like, it's the power associated with, like, how far can you jump? What is your reaction time off of the ground? Like, can you get down and up really quickly? Like, you could reduce your I'm short, so not me, but, like, you could reduce your amount of burpees that you're doing from, like, 46 to 40 just by being able to jump further.
Hmm.
And that will save a ton of time because the motion and the time that it takes to get down and up, even if you're fast at it, like, is very time consuming.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Is there anything specific you're working on in your training, or has like anything got focus in your training that you're working on for the upcoming season?
so I really want to get better at my lunges, like, specifically. Um, it's towards the end of the race, so there's, like, less moves being made there, but I don't wanna lose a ton of time either. Um And what I found interesting was when I compare my open time on the lunges to my pro time, it was actually really fast. So, it's not that I'm not capable of that speed. It just seems to be like I slow down significantly once you add weight. So, like, I'm playing around with trying to figure out, like, how can I continue to keep that speed up when the weight is heavier?
Okay,
So that's, like, one of the areas for sure that I'm trying to work on and figure out,
okay.
besides, of course, trying to get better overall, but that's a very specific one.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, so we touched on like injuries and injury prevention, but like again, it's relatively high volume training. But how do you think about avoiding overtraining, or how do you make sure you avoid overtraining? Like, are you using any technology? Are you looking at your HRV? Are you doing anything like that to try and like make sure you don't get to that point?
Um, I do monitor my HRV. I not necessarily for overtraining, but I do monitor it, and it could be a signal. I also monitor my resting heart rate. I look at like my quality of sleep. So again, like our technology isn't necessarily entirely accurate, but it's pretty close. So I can look at what it's telling me in terms of like how long was I in deep sleep, how long was I in REM, how long was I awake, and or light sleep, and kind of playing with like the different percentages and ratios of that like kind of gives me an idea as well. um, but at the end of the day, I think, like, what helps me avoid because I am doing a lot, as are the athletes that I'm training, as are a lot of the athletes that are following our program. Um, but we do a lot of not high intensity work. I think it's the high intensity that often leads to, like, more overtraining syndromes. Not that you can't overtrain with just low intensity, but it is a lot harder to do. And I think that's helped me like tremendously. One, stay consistent, but two, be able to like continue to grow over the years because yes, like you might be able to like hit a stimulus. Um, and get better quickly with some high intensity pieces, but you're also way, way, way more likely to burn out, and you might have an injury. You're more likely to have a bigger injury, which then you're not consistent, and that's what's taking away from growth. So I think, yes, I monitor like all these measurements, but at the end of the day, I think the thing that like helps me stave off overtraining the most is not going hard all the time, like
Yeah,
going hard not like very rarely.
yeah. And I guess maybe, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but you've had a lifetime of training as well. Like you've trained a lot. You've been very good for many years, and I guess you're in a better position to cope with that sort of volume than someone that's just only been training a couple of years as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I even remember being in high school and like watching the news like in the summer and they were interviewing, do you know who Mario Lopez is?
No.
He's some American actor, but I was in high school and they were interviewing him and he talked about how no matter what, just to make sure he got something in every day, he ran 5 miles in the morning. And I remember thinking like, "Wow, that is so far." He runs 5 miles every day. Like, it's all perspective because, like, to me, like, that was huge. I couldn't imagine doing that and then also being able to do something else. Um, but this is like what God, I'm old, 25 years ago now, like, um, I also started training and I wasn't training in the beginning the way I'm training now, I wasn't even training, like, 7 years ago the way that I'm training now, like, it's constantly developing and things are constantly changing, like, every year and, kind of figuring out what works and building on and trying to stay as consistent as possible, and I think, yes, so, like, I've been doing this for a long time, but I've also been very lucky in that I have been super consistent, like, um, I have had injuries, few of them have prevented me from running, so I've had a pretty, like, long run streaks with, like, very little breaks, and even when it has prevented me from running, like, I figured out something else I could do to keep moving. Um, so like, I can't remember, like, the last time that I wasn't moving with consistency.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the uh the field in HYROX is getting increasingly competitive, and you've been at like the top of the sport for a long time. And I'm sometimes asked this, like, what is the like, is there a consistent characteristic between all the elites? Like, what do you see this like the common characteristic? And to be honest, sometimes I struggle to answer it. Like, I think of you, and then I like, you're not the same as Hunter, and you're not the same as Megan, and things like that. Like, there is very different people in that elites. But do you notice any common characteristics between you all?
Um, yeah, so everybody is, like, so different who is, like, doing well and excelling at the sport, and, um, I don't think there's a way to necessarily say, like, there is one specific characteristic, but I would theorize that, like, not so everybody in life, everybody in the world, like, has challenging times and goes through problems. I would theorize that a lot of the people at the top have also, like, we don't know everybody's story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some people put it out there and some people don't. I would imagine that a lot of the people doing really well have had some, like, very, very challenging times in their lives, and now, like, there's just, like, this something else to focus on that is positive, and they're getting positive feedback, and or, like, you're putting yourself through some sort of, like, pain or suffering, but it's something that you get to control versus an outside perspective controlling that pain and suffering on you. Um, I wouldn't personally ask all the athletes, like, what's the hardest things that they've gone through, but I would imagine that a lot of the people, at the top have had some, like, really difficult things that they've gone through.
Mm. Interesting. And then they've used sport and exercise as a sort of an escape, or something like,
Either
yeah,
an escape and or, like, just something that they can control.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
where a lot of other things, like, that are put on you in life, like, are out of your control, like, this is something that you can control. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can control how hard I'm working, I can control how much I'm suffering.
Yeah, yeah. Um, when you're on the start line of a major race or a world championship, what's going on in your mind at that point at the start of a race?
I I know this sounds ridiculous, but, like, I'm always so excited to see how fast I can run. Like, it's not even, like, about the entirety of the race and how fast I can do, like, certain stations. It's just, when I'm training, I never run as fast as I do as once I get on that course, and it just feels so liberating, and I like, that's, like, one of the first things that's, like, going through my mind when I'm on the start line. It's like, I'm so excited to, like, see what this turnover is gonna be.
To finally be unleashed. And
Yeah, just let me go.
and then how about like during the race when it is getting tough and you've got to dig deep? Does your mind go in a particular place then?
Yeah, I lean into it for sure. Like, it's not easy to get to that place of, like, of being in the hurt locker. Like, you have to work so hard to get to that place. So once I get there, like, I'm not letting it go. Like, I wanna lean into it. And to me, like, backing off is not giving everything that I can. So, I wanna be able to cross the finish line and know that, like, it hurt, and I leaned into it, and I gave it everything I can. 'Cause I don't wanna walk away from the race disappointed in my effort. That's not something I wanna walk away from. Like, I want to walk away from a race and appreciate the effort I put in every single time.
Hmm. When you say lean into it, do you feel like when it comes, are you like, yes, it's here? I like, is that the mindset? Are you like, you're happy you've reached that spot?
Yes, because I know that I worked to get there, and you have a choice at that time,
Hmm.
like, "Okay, so this hurts. Am I gonna back off or am I gonna keep pushing?" And, uh, I'm very proud every single time that I choose to keep pushing. Like, that's, like, just a really good feeling to have, to know that, like, this is uncomfortable, and I kept pushing. Because you have a choice in that moment, and there's few feelings greater than knowing that you chose to keep pushing and going hard for it.
Yeah. Do you like the sport has grown a lot since your time in it? You've now got like sponsors, there's like increased viewers, and you've been one of the favorites for some of these major races. Do you feel a pressure going into the races?
No, which is interesting because, like, in other sports I've been in, I've felt, like, tons of pressure, um, and I think part of it, like, comes with the confidence and, like, I'm very confident in my training now, I'm very confident in my abilities in this particular sport, where I didn't have that confidence in past sports that I've tried to be competitive in. So, I think that, like, I know when I walk up, like, no matter, like, what position or what health state I'm in, like, I know I'm prepared. I know I did the best that I could to get to this start line, where I've definitely been in sports in the past that I did not feel that way, and I felt a ton of pressure even with no sponsors.
Mm,
It's regardless of, like, a sponsor or not, it's just, like, me feeling prepared, and I feel prepared when I walk up to the start line.
okay, awesome. There's a few questions been finishing up with on here, and I think some of them we covered last time. But um, do you have a favorite sporting experience through your lifetime?
I mean, I probably said this one and the last time we talked, but for sure, like, that first Vegas race, like, it was the World Championships in 2022. It's just to me, like, it's a memory I'm so grateful to have, to race with the little girl that is now running alongside me, like, and, um, I haven't even I haven't even shown her, like, any clips or photos or anything from it because she wouldn't understand right now, but, like, I'm looking forward to the moment that, like, she would understand it, and I can share that with her, but, like, right now, I just get to share in terms of, like, her abilities and what she is doing with me, so I would say, yeah, that's
Yeah.
far
Amazing.
and above my favorite sporting experience.
I should say for people that aren't aware, like were you 7 months pregnant at the time when you raced?
Like 7 and 8 months. Yeah, I was 33 weeks, I think.
Yeah,
33
yeah.
weeks
And
pregnant.
you finished ninth, right? Which was, yeah, incredible. Uh, is there anything you believe about training or performance that you think a lot of people would disagree with?
I think in this sport in particular, I think a lot of people are hammering just like the stations and like and just going through the motions of the stations over and over again. And while I do believe you need to touch on them, and they should be within your training, I don't think that it needs to necessarily be the bulk of your training. I also think the intensity is just from my perception of like what I see on the internet, it looks like the intensity is probably higher too often than it needs to be. I think you would feel better. I think you would be more consistent. I think you would enjoy it more if there were less days of intensity. And maybe you can go through like a high rock style workout, which I just said like doesn't have to be all the time, but you can still go through a high rock style workout in a zone 3 effort. Like you don't have to be pushing that Z4, Z5, and just kind of get the motions. So I think there's just like maybe a little bit too much pushing towards trying to go as hard as you can too often. And I would vary the types of movements you're doing a bit more.
Just on that point about intensity, and also going back to what you were saying about when you're on the start line, you're kind of excited to see how fast you can run because you don't typically do that. Like you're typically like below threshold, if you like, in your running. Is there uh, is there a danger like in when you get to a race, it's just like you're hitting zone 5 and you're so like not used to hitting zone 5 because you've not been doing that in training that you back off, or maybe not for you because you lean into it. But is there a danger that some people might do that, do you think, or are you touching it enough in training just in small doses?
So because of the length of a HYROX, I would argue that I'm not in a zone 5 when I'm doing it. Um, it would be very challenging for somebody to be in zone 5 for an hour plus. So sure there is some danger of like over revving it and like going too far. Like that's always a danger. And I've done that. Like I've for sure done that. It's been less often, I'd say over the past 2 years, but especially in my earlier days, like I 100% have done that and have felt the pain of what it does to you. Um, I think if you were to expand outside of HYROX and look at maybe some of the other sports that are in the hybrid area that are not an hour plus long, there's more danger of it. So, like, if you look at DecaFit, it's half the time. I definitely dip into zone 5 more there because the intensity is so much higher. Um, and and there's points that I'll have to pull back from it because I'm like, "Oh, that was that was too much." But, like, they throw things in, like, the assault bike, and, like, it's pretty easy to get into zone 5 on an
Yeah,
assault bike. Um, so, yes, like, I think there is a danger of it. You won't be in zone 5 for the entirety of a HYROX, like, maybe you'll
no,
dip in here and there. But the problem comes is if you dip too far and now, like, you can't come back from it and be able to, like, now you're just surviving the rest of the race depending on where you did that versus, um, being able to make moves throughout the race.
yeah,
So, yes, there is a danger in that,
yeah.
just definitely not for the whole race.
No, I think if they ever were to make changes to a high rocks race, I think like an assault bike in the middle of the race somewhere that teases people into going into zone 5 in the middle of the race would be quite a nice addition.
I mean, I'm gonna cross my fingers they never put an assault bike in there. I know some of my dear friends would love one. I know, Vivian would love an assault bike. She's so good at it. Um, but yeah, no, just be like chasing her tail, trying to catch back up somewhere.
Well, thank you for this. It's been great to chat again. Uh, good luck, obviously, for anything you do in the off season. And presumably, the first time we'll see you is in Hamburg. Is it for the HYROX?
Yeah, I plan to be in Hamburg for sure.
Okay, awesome. So, for people who want to follow you, find out more about your coaching and everything like that, where's best to go? And do you want to tell them any more about it or anything?
So, I mean, we have a website too. It's thehybridengine.com, and then it also has its own Instagram if you want to follow there. It's just the Hybrid Engine. And if you want to follow along with what I'm doing, I have training on there. It's mostly me training with Lily, but it's also showing life of things that I'm doing outside of that. But honestly, like she's very much involved in everything I do. So if you don't mind toddler content, you can follow me as well. It's Lauren_E_weeks.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Amazing. Thank you for this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.